Trying again. I'm going to pick up where I left off. I was talking about Argo um, and the self driving car company. I'm going to pick up where I left off. I was talking about Argo, um, the self driving car company that Ford bought into. And the architectural firm asked me, they had seen my metal work and they knew that they wanted a piece that was all done in license plates. And so I started the bidding process and ended up being awarded the job. So it was such a blessing because everything got put on hold obviously when COVID started, but then a few months in, they said that they wanted to proceed, and since I was working alone in my studio, it worked for me to continue on with the project. And so I worked on it for about 5 months, 4 months, 5 months. And it was 30 feet long and 5 feet tall. And the whole thing was assembled from license plates that I had cut down, painted, collaged. If you want to see pictures of it, it's on my website, kimfox.art or workerbird.com or both. It's on my Instagram account. Um, and I can follow up with links if that's possible. Anyhow, so I can't remember offhand how many license plates I bought for the project. Far more than $40 worth of reclaimed walnut. Um, Thousands of dollars of old license plates, and thousands of license plates. And I had some scrap left over, and it's still in my studio. I rarely throw anything away. I just cut things down into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces and continue to use them. So I had a lot of scrap left over, and I decided, oh, I'm going to work really big. I'm going to continue to rent this studio from my friend. They just have a basement room in their warehouse, and I'm going to work really big, and it's going to be this great experience of working really big, specifically for the show at Cambria. I wanted to really kind of break out of my um, methods that I had gotten used to and do these huge pieces. And I did one of them, and it's in the show, and it's the title of the show, is the title of this piece. It's called Superposition, and it's on the postcard. It's this big red piece that's in the show. And but also, to make things more confusing, that wasn't actually license plates. That was all tin, like these kind of tins cut apart, because again, I don't throw anything away. When you break these all apart and flatten them, this little edge of every lid is kind of wasted. There's not a lot you can do with a long, skinny piece of tin, at least not the way that I had worked before. So if you go to the gallery this week, because the show comes down this weekend, you will see that that piece is entirely composed of all the edges of lids of tins. And you'll see what I mean, because it's all very long vertical pieces. And I will answer Karen's question if she's still here. I commented in the text about it. Karen asked if I do anything with the tins. I don't think she's still here. I'm not surprised. Sorry, Karen. Well, just in case. I obviously, a lot of them stay in this form until I'm ready to use them. I often end up thinking like, oh, I need to gift wrap a present. I should just put it in an old tin. Um, but for the most part, I'm not super nostalgic about them, and I feel like I get more use out of them turning them into these art pieces. So I generally cut them apart. Uh, so I did the one big piece. I did superposition. And then because of supply chain issues and everything that happened during COVID, the price of lumber skyrocketed. And I was envisioning doing these like 4 foot by 4 foot pieces on plywood, and um, the price of plywood was just obscene, and it was really hard to get. And so I totally pivoted, and decided to work smaller than I had before. And so I cut down, I had one sheet of MDF, and I cut that into a ton of 5 by 5 inch squares and just set to work with all of this scrap that I had, and I was cutting it down into smaller and smaller pieces, and I was doing studies, and that was a really the weeks and months that I spent just committed to doing work for this show, and being in my studio for hours each day was some of the best work I've had in my life. Like the work experience, I loved it so much. And so when you see the show, some of the pieces are, it's all very abstract. I do a little bit of referential work. You'll see there's a map of the United States, which is what I used to do primarily. And one year I was at the Three Rivers Arts Festival, and like the 900th person that came in my booth, everybody would walk up to it and touch it and say, "Is this fabric? Are these quilted?" And I didn't know anything about quilting, but after the 900th person, I was like, I give up. I'm going to start researching some quilting and some quilt patterns. And I started with these amazing quilters in the South called the Gee's Bend Quilters. And you'll have to look them up because their imagery is not what you think of when you think of quilting. But it was super inspirational, and it kind of changed the way that I worked. And while I still do some referential things like maps and birds, I've also pushed myself to work more with a quilting approach, or an abstract approach, and working with colors and shapes. One of the things that I'm really inspired by, if you if you look at my phone, I have 86,000 pictures on my phone, I think. And when I travel, every 90% of the pictures are like walking down alleys and taking pictures of walls of houses with like interesting old doors and trim and a layer of paint and then a new layer of paint and then a board, and and they're like these architectural abstracts. And so that put me in one direction, was like taking actual photos that I had taken in travels and then using those as inspiration to create the pieces in tin. Again, I don't know if that makes sense without seeing it, but if you've seen the show, those pieces, they're all called stratigraphy. That is a geological term, but I sort of applied it to like urban stratigraphy because it has to do with learning that thing that in layers, the ones back here took place earlier in time than the ones up here, which when it was discovered in geology was an earth-shattering concept, no pun intended. But I'm also a geology fan, and I came upon that term, and it really made me think of like these pictures that I was taking and the tin pieces that I was doing and the layers of in the show, like when you know this part of the house is older than this part. And I don't know. I just love all the layers and I love all the patchworking. So a lot of the pieces in the show are inspired by that. And then I just kept pushing that idea, that visual idea, and abstracting it even more and playing around with all of the scraps from the Argo project to create all these small studies for the superposition show. So, um, so that's where I'm at now. I do hope to get to the point where I can work really big and experiment with that. Although, boy, I really loved I like giving myself a rule to start with, like, okay, everything's going to be 5x5. Because then the minute I give myself a rule, then I want to start like pushing the boundaries a little bit. So I really loved working that way for this show. So I don't exactly know what comes next, but for the workshops, there'll be 2 workshops, and I will be bringing the wood, the substrates, a bunch of tins, all the tools, and you will be doing what I did 12 years ago in my workshop, and then, years from now, you'll be mucking up one of these Facebook Live videos yourself. So I don't think I can see comments. I did answer, this is an old comment though, I did answer Karen's question. I was, like I said, hoping to have a lot of Q&A because I'm never really sure that people are going to want to hear what I'm thinking people want to hear about, that they might have questions or like want to see all this old weird stuff that's in my studio. But since I can't see the questions, don't exactly know what else you want to hear. So I'm getting into Johnstown Thursday night, and I will be at the gallery probably most of Friday. And I have some time in between the workshops too. If anyone is watching this and has more questions and would want to come to the gallery and walk the show with me, I can answer questions then. Would love to do that. Otherwise, I think that's it. Let's see if Kate has any feedback. Two of these other 2. I brought these in just to show like the difference of using, I don't know, quilting as an approach and really using the nails as part of the artwork, and getting away from referential things, but really being inspired by quilt patterns and also like hex, Pennsylvania Dutch hexes and barn quilts and things. Oh, okay. Patricia, great. Yes, come in early Friday, and before the workshop, yeah, and we'll walk through the show and I'll show you everything. And like I said, if you have any of these kinds of tins at home, people always have them in there. Like I go to estate sales and they're down in the basement because people think they're going to use them again and then they never do. If you have one and you want to make like an heirloom piece for your family, or if you just have someone want to bring them and we'll cut them apart. Thank you again. Sorry for the technical difficulties, and hope to see some of you on Friday. Have a good night.